Let me get this straight. We're seeing production rise and prices too. Isn't that counterintuitive?
Well, Contessa, I think there had been some expectation going into the Saturday meeting of the countries making voluntary cuts. So the real OPEC group met earlier in the week and said, we're going to extend our collective cut through the end of end of 2026. We're talking about a voluntary cut that they had announced 8 countries that they were going to start phasing in. And so the fact that you had the 411, that had become consensus. So we did not exceed the consensus increase. And I think that explains why prices are rising today. The Kazakh oil minister had come out and said that Kazakhstan was going to increase its own production. So there had been some question about whether there would be an even bigger increase in 411. And so they basically hit the expectation. And so prices are rising today.
I think it's interesting that Kazakhstan seems to be setting the global oil markets strategy and whatnot. But that aside, you had a statement from OPEC saying, look, when we're talking about raising supply, there's a steady global economic outlook and current healthy market fundamentals. Is there demand for all of this extra oil?
So this is such an interesting question because in the run up to the meetings that we just had, you had UAE's oil minister out saying that additional barrels could be needed, that demand was picking up. I had heard some officials from the Gulf say the reason why oil prices are not lower than they are now, given all the trade concerns, is that demand is hanging in there. And so I do think that is the new reason why they're saying they're putting these barrels on the market, that the market can take these barrels. And again, if you look at where prices are right now, we have not had a major sell-off since they announced they were going to start putting on more barrels on the market. Sure, we're not in the 70s, but given all the concerns about the China-U.S. trade war, hanging in the mid 60s for Brent prices isn't so bad for a number of countries that have some spare capacity.
Okay, so we've seen it like it was below $60 a barrel in April. It's at 62.82 this morning. Where do you think prices are going?
I think it's going to be really important to watch a couple of important stories. The trade war is something we have to pay very close attention to because obviously that is a big wall of worry for the oil markets because China is so important for global oil demand. But then we really need to watch 2 negotiations. What happens with the U.S.-Russia negotiations, over the war in Ukraine? Do we get some sanctions relief or do we get more sanctions, as Congress is threatening to do if Russia does not show serious resolve to end this war? And then the all-important Iran nuclear negotiations. Your previous guest talked about speed dating. That is what we're really seeing in the effort of the White House to try to get a deal over Iran. And there was a very worrying report that just came out by the UN Nuclear Watchdog Agency saying Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium, the uranium that is very close to weapons grade levels, 60%, that stockpile had grown 50% since the previous report, and that Iran had enough highly enriched stockpile for 10 nuclear devices. So that is putting pressure on the White House to try to get Iran to make a deal because you do have governments like Israel saying if Iran does not make a deal, if they do not forego enrichment, they are still determined to have a military solution. So this negotiation is really coming to endgame phase. And so we really have to watch what happens over the next few months.